Courage takes the place of fear. I've heard a man say, when I was drinking, I used to believe that people could smell my fear. I reeked of it. They always speak of the irrational fears in the soul of the alcoholic. He's scared to death and doesn't know what he's scared of. Fear is a universal feeling in the souls of alcoholics and addicts of all kinds. Fear. Don't know what you're afraid of. Just afraid. Afraid of the mail. Afraid when a telephone rings. Adult people, physically adult people, scared to death when the phone rings. Those fears are gone. It's replaced with courage. The alcoholic says, I can do things now I could never do before. I attempt things now that I would have been scared to death even to think of before. I walk up to strangers and offer them my hand and my help and my hope now. I would never have dreamed of doing that before. The respect of others. I wonder how many of you listening here right now have ever asked these questions. Will I ever again have the respect of those who used to respect me? Will I ever stop causing pain in the lives of those who love me? All of these questions had a kind of a note of desperation to them. But now I have the respect of other people, he says. I've earned it. I always tell alcoholics, if people mistrust you, they have a right to mistrust you. How many promises were broken? A couple of hundred? A couple of thousand? How many promises to oneself have been broken? As the alcoholic says, in my heart of hearts, the next time will be different. And it is different, it's worse. The broken promises. How in the name of God can I ever again in my life, ever be trusted? I will be trusted if I become trustworthy. And there's only one way to do that. Stay sober today. And when tomorrow comes, do it again. And then do it again. And again. And the contempt of others, and above all else, the pity, the pitying pity of others changes to respect. A clear conscience in place of guilt. Ladies and gentlemen, I have always said, basically, serenity is nothing more than peace of conscience. I'm living as I know I ought to be living. What will I do with all the hours I spent drinking? This is a question practically every alcoholic asks. God, I spend days in bars. I spend days in the loneliness of my room. So what will I do with all this time? Stay sober and you will pray for a 36-hour day. You will. There are too many people to help. The loneliness has given place to the friendship of true friends now. Hey, what's going to happen to my friends when I go home from treatment? What do I have to look forward to? Let me tell you something. I've always said to those leaving treatment, your true friends will be grateful. You're no longer an embarrassment to them. You're no longer acting like a twerp when you get drunk. You're a pleasure to have around. They actually invite you to their homes. The rest will disappear because your sobriety will be an indictment of their drinking. What do you have to be grateful for? The courage to say no thanks when offered a drink. The courage even to say things that you wouldn't have been brave enough to say before. By the way, how do you ensure, if somebody keeps pressing you to drink, how can you ensure that after they ask you once, they will just not return? This way. Somebody comes up to you and says, would you care for a drink? You simply say, no thanks, but I'll take the money. They will not bother you again. A very clear-cut pattern of living. It's laid out now. Practice these principles in all our affairs. It takes the place of the confusion that is created by all the philosophies that are pretty prevalent out there. The philosophies of permissiveness, and you can take your choice. No more choice. I know what the rules are now. There's no more confusion. Difficulty in living the good life? Oh yeah. Lots of difficulty, but it's clear. There's no more confusion. The joy of achievement. I have actually done something for somebody else. There's nothing on earth that takes place of that type of satisfaction. Satisfacere, to make enough, to fill yourself with this sense of completion. I have done something for another. That is the essence of fulfillment and happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Wilson started with step 12 in order to discover the first 11. You know what the 12th step is? Happiness and fulfillment is available only through commitment to others. You don't seek happiness for self. You seek to love your brother, and happiness and fulfillment result from that. And we discover that. Freedom from the obsession with alcohol. That is the gift. After the years of frustration and disappointment, which gives way to hostility and then anger and sometimes hatred on the part of family members, all other things being equal, is usually replaced ultimately with a deepening of the love from one's family. The biggest thing that most modern alcoholics have to be grateful for is the fact that they were born in this era. Born in the era of AA. There are certain cures for cancer that have not yet been discovered. We also live in that era. Someday there will be cures for certain illnesses that do not exist. The cures don't exist today. You and I live in the era of AA. How many hundreds of thousands of alcoholics are alive today because two men got together in 1935? I once heard an American author speak at a banquet, and he listed the names of brilliant American writers who died of alcoholism because they weren't lucky to be born later when AA was around. Let me now just, for a moment, share something from the life of Christ. You're all familiar with the cure of the 10 lepers. In the days of Christ, and up until modern times, lepers were isolated because they have a disease that is highly contagious. It's an ugly disease. It eats away at the external extremities of the human body. In his day, they were isolated in the hills. You know what was significant about their asking for help? They cried out from afar. They had been relegated to caves in the hills, and they had to yell to be heard, "Son of David, have mercy on us." And he said, what do you want? He made them ask. Made them ask. God wants to be asked. He wants the alcoholic to acknowledge, you have what I don't have. May I please have some? And so he said, what do you want? They said, what do you mean, what do we want? We want to be clean. He said, go show yourselves to the priests. All right, on the way they were made whole. Please listen to this. I think it's important about this virtue of gratitude. I cannot help but believe that all 10 felt grateful. You cannot have something like leprosy lifted from you without feeling something. I believe they all felt grateful. One acted. And the response of the giver was, weren't 10 made clean? Where are the other 9? And so, I remember once a man saying to me, he said, I was shocked almost out of my seat one night in an AA meeting when a fellow got up and he said, my name is so-and-so and I'm a grateful alcoholic. And he said, it struck me, I hadn't thought of gratitude for 3 weeks. And he said, it worried me half sick. I know we have to be grateful. A man I know defines gratitude as the hinge on which the sober life swings. It is the essential. You ever heard this? If you do this, you'll get drunk. If you do that, you get drunk. I've heard people threaten brand new alcoholics almost to death. Do that, you get drunk. Don't do this, you'll get drunk. So I know people who do it all and stay sober. Wouldn't give you a dime for their sobriety, but there are people, and you know a bunch of them too, they live their own lives, but they don't drink. I do not see how anyone can remain sober without gratitude. It is the hinge on which the sober life swings. You don't have to feel grateful, you have to be grateful. And I think that the essence of gratitude is step 12 of the AA program. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the depth and the seriousness with which a person works the AA program depends directly on the depth and the seriousness with which he accepts his condition in step 1, in which he says, I am an alcoholic. All the first 11 steps are nothing but a preparation for the 12th. No one gives away what he doesn't have. Now, the wording of the step, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, all of these steps have given the alcoholic a spiritual awakening as a preface to, we tried to carry the message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. The first 11 steps are a preparation for doing what God created you to do, thou shalt love. The 10th leper was grateful. He, as well as the other 9, felt it. He acted. I have heard it said, don't tell me you're grateful, show me. I remember once a young man, friend of mine, happened to be an alcoholic, a member of AA, and he said that he had become disillusioned one Saturday night. He was on answering service for his area, and he had a list of 12 steppers. Now, these are volunteers. These are volunteers. Here's my name, here's my phone number. And he said that a fellow at an 8:30 meeting had that whole room in tears with how grateful he was for his sobriety. He said he was absolutely brilliant, articulate and wonderful. He gave a whole litany of things like this that he was grateful for. And he literally had everybody in tears. When I come home from work now, my little girl hugs me around the neck and says, I love you, Daddy. I'm able to eat a meal and enjoy it. I'm able to experience and find happiness in the beauty of nature. I mean, he went great. Let's talk for an hour with how grateful he was. About an hour and a half after that AA meeting, this fellow got a call. A drunk was in need. Lived around the corner from this man. And he called him. He said, I have your name here. You're on the list, 12 steps. He said, there's a fellow called for help. Can you take the call? And this was the response. I'm tired. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are grateful for anything, you won't have to tell me. I'll see it. I'll see it. The 12th step is called putting the money where the mouth is. Don't tell me, show me. The greatest thing that we should be grateful for, paradoxically enough, is God's gift of pain. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Who likes pain? You don't have to like it. You just have to be grateful for it. In my opinion, pain is the fertilizer for spiritual growth. We use horse manure on rose bushes. We use a lot of fertilizer of different kinds for different things. Pain is the fertilizer for human growth. How can we pray to God to remove our shortcomings and then gripe at the way He does? He always hands us painful circumstances of life in order to help us acquire these virtues that we're asking for to replace the defects of character. Somebody once said, how come every time I ask God for a blessing, it always comes to me wrapped up in a brickbat? The fellow said, I never knew they came any other way. Spiritual children thank God for the ice cream cones of life. Adults thank God for the pain that brought it. I once heard a woman say, I'm very, very grateful for my sobriety, but I cannot understand these people who say they're grateful for being alcoholics. How in the name of heavens can you be grateful for a disease? I don't think she understood the lesson that life teaches. I'm not criticizing her. She was very young in her sobriety, and I just feel certain that she must feel different now. Isn't it your alcoholism that has given you appreciation of sobriety? I always tell non-alcoholics, you really don't know what sobriety is. You've never lost it. You have nothing to contrast it with, really. You can imagine, but you really don't know. Pain is the most wasted resource on earth. We never use it in the sense of accepting it and offering it up to God. There is an expression of gratitude, and nobody knows it but God and me. But gratitude is really expressed in carrying the message of sobriety to somebody else. Bill Wilson proved that by doing it. He proved it by doing it. The loveliest definition of gratitude I have ever heard in my life. It is the golden tray on which I offer to others what God has given me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 63 years of age. I believe that my life is well over half over. I don't think I'm in the twilight zone yet, but I can see dusk beginning to settle, and my one startling fear is very real because I know whereof I speak. It's not being grateful enough for what has come my way on this earth. It scares me. Oh, I can talk a good gratitude. Anybody can. That's easy. That's the easy part. But I know where I've failed, and it frightens me. The shortest, and I would hope to the dear Lord, the most effective prayer I say is one in which I try to order God every morning of my life. Make me grateful. Make me grateful. A lovely, realistic prayer. You've all heard it, I'm sure. Thank you for what you've given. Thank you for what you've taken away. And thank you for what you've left me. I think it takes greatness of soul to say that and mean it. I don't know whether I'm capable of doing that 100%. But I do know this, for what it's worth, I do have feelings. I am grateful for many things who have made my life worthwhile. I thank you for that. And good night.